Hello guys and girls, dear subscribers. There's been an unbelievable amount of new devices that have recently been launched, which I will discuss in other videos. But today I want to go back in time. I want to show you how much smartphones have evolved in time. What's it like to use a phone of 2007 in 2015? I will show you by comparing two flagship phones, one flagship from the year 2007 and a flagship device of 2015 this year. So we're looking at a time span of almost a decade. I have used both of them in today's use scenarios, browsing the web, emailing, Facebook, Twitter, SatNav and so on. So let's go ahead. Here we have the E90 communicator from Nokia. This, for many smartphone fans, was the ultimate smartphone back then. It couldn't get any better than this, but sadly no one could afford one, except if you were selling drugs or if you were working in Wall Street or something. And the other phone we will look at today is an iPhone 6s Plus, Apple's flagship for this year. Originally introduced in the same year as that on the E90, namely 2007. Also very expensive, it costs as much as the E90 back then. The E90 is built like a tank. It's big, heavy, and it has a metal construction. This thing is a weapon. Like with a gun, you need a permit to carry this thing around, as you can use it as a hammer or a stick to defend yourself from people with bad intentions. So let's quickly look at the specs and get going with testing. Let's start with the E90. It is a clamshell with a full backlit QWERTY keyboard, and the looks of people's faces when you open up the keyboard is priceless and still manages to impress nowadays. As you can see, it's very heavy, over 200 grams. It has an incredible low amount of RAM, 128 megabytes. Other cool things, it has two displays, a main display 4-inch wide, very high resolution for that time, and a smaller covered display of 2-inch. Furthermore, there's Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, USB 2, an IR blaster, stereo speakers which are really loud, I will come to that later, and a micro SD slot. The specifications of the latest iPhone are more up to date, of course. It has a touchscreen, a modern operating system, but it lacks cool things such as an IR blaster, a full QWERTY keyboard, stereo speakers and the micro SD slot. Also, it's a lot more fragile. It does have Force Touch, of course, and a fingerprint scanner, two very useful features. So feature-wise, we can conclude that the E90 still is very competitive for an 8-year-old device. It has the combination of features that still no device has nowadays. They're just not as up to date as they are on the iPhone. So what's it like to use a phone of 2007 in 2015? Well, I've been using the Nokia E90 for a week now, and before I started this experiment I did a factory reset on the E90. I then tried to connect it to my computer to load some apps on it, only to find out that I could no longer install Nokia PC Suite as it does not support the Windows 10 operating system on my laptop. The other option you have is to load installation files of applications on your microSD card and install them on your phone from there. There the second problem becomes apparent because I could hardly install any applications because of certificate errors. So I decided to use it out of the box and I started with email. On a normal day, most of us nowadays send an email or two. The E90 has a dedicated hardware button for this, which is awesome. But what's not awesome is the fact that it doesn't support native HTML email, which is a no-go nowadays, to be honest. And the internal widescreen is a bit narrow in height, so you don't get to see as much of the email or list of emails as you do on the iPhone. The QWERTY keyboard, on the other hand, is a joy to use, even though the buttons require a bit of force to press. You can toggle the backlight for the keys, which is seriously cool. But the thing that bugged me the most is that if you set up the device from scratch today and configure Mail for Exchange, you will notice that it simply will not work. Google doesn't support Symbian anymore, which means you can't use Gmail with Exchange or a mobile Gmail app. And if you're a Hotmail user, things are slightly better, but the setup process is complicated. So in conclusion, email on the iPhone is far superior, while on the E90 it's almost impossible and frustrating because of the lack of support from email service providers. Web browsing. The E90 has the notorious S60 Symbian browser, which was the standard in smartphones back then, until the iPhone came along with its Safari browser, which of course is far superior. The first thing you should do if you want to use an E90 is install the Opera browser, which performs much better. As there no longer is an app store for the E90, you're better off browsing mobile sites to compensate for the lack of apps. So if you want to use Twitter or Facebook, just browse to the mobile site. But even then the experience is not satisfactory. Camera. Now this is interesting. The Nokia has a dedicated camera button on its side, also something which is still rare in today's smartphones. A 3.2 megapixel camera with autofocus and LED flash, which shoots video in the VGA resolution at 30 frames per second. Wow, back then, and even today you can get pretty good results out of it, except in low light. It also has a front camera for video conferencing, but not many apps are able to use it properly if you want to do some video conferencing. The iPhone is much better in every other way, and with FaceTime and the selfie era we live in, the E90 is no match. Here's some pictures taken with both. There's even GPS for both online as well as offline navigation, and it looks awesome on the E90. It does take ages for it to lock on satellites, even if it has assisted GPS. Battery endurance is pretty similar when it comes to standby times, both well over 300 hours. But as you start using the phones for calling, the E90 is no match for the iPhone, which has much better endurance and much better voice quality. So, in conclusion, I can say that we should be grateful for the advances in mobile technology. I am a diehard fan of the E90, but it was a tough week relying solely on this phone. If you consider using it, then don't. Let it go. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And to my subscribers, I want to say thank you for sticking around. I love you. Bye bye.